Hello, and welcome to another edition of Coffee Talk with attorney Brian Lerner. In this particular episode, I'd like to talk a little bit about funding the trust. When people make a revocable living trust, one of the biggest problems is that they go to a lawyer, or they just prepare it off the internet, whatever they do. Everything looks really pretty. They had it all notarized, witnessed, and put a nice copy in the safety deposit box, and then they say, we're all done, thanks, goodbye, and everything's fine. But the problem is that they don't fund the trust. And by funding the trust, what that means is that the assets that the person owns, or that the couple owns, is legally transferred into the trust. That's what funding the trust means. And without doing that, then essentially you have an empty living trust with no assets in it, and the assets are not protected. The ability to avoid probate is not done, and there's lots of disadvantages. So if you're going to make a living trust, then along with that is the necessity to fund the living trust. So you have to understand the importance of funding the living trust. Basically, there are some very basic items that are really important. One, it makes it easier to manage the property, that's for sure. Anything that's in the living trust under the name of the living trust is all in one essential area. It's easy to manage the property, to know what's in the living trust, what's not in the living trust. Having it in the living trust also reduces the potential for disputes over the ownership. Okay, if you get it in the living trust, then essentially it's the living trust that owns it, and it prevents third-party, not prevents, but it makes much less likely third-party ability to attack the property, to try to levy on it, to try to get liens on it. There's all kinds of protections available once it's in the living trust. And then for immediate benefit, anything in the living trust, it doesn't go through probate. So if you have 2 houses, 3 cars, and 16 bank accounts, and all of them are in the living trust, then nothing goes to probate. And if anybody's been through a probate, number one, it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of money, and it takes a lot of effort, and everything is public, everything. So if you know Joe Blow, who is in the middle of probate, and you go, I wonder what he's getting from his mom's will. You just go to the court records, it's public record, you can see everything. But with a living trust, it is not. Okay, it is private, and essentially only the trustor, trustee, beneficiaries will know. And then even if there's third parties that have to know of the existence of a trust, you make the certification of trust, and that will allow the trust to go forward without all of the specifics being conveyed to everybody. Now, given that, there are some items, for example, that can't go into a living trust. For example, a lot of pension plans, they can't go into a living trust. A lot of retirement type benefits and retirement type plans that have beneficiaries issued, they can't go into a living trust, because when that person dies, it goes to who's ever designated on the beneficiary form outside of the parameters of a living trust. So whether it's in there or not, it goes outside, so you can't do that. IRAs, they can go into a living trust, but there's taxable detriment to that, meaning that if you take an IRA and you put it in the living trust, that means essentially you've taken that out of the IRA, you have to pay the penalty on it, and then you get it back in the living trust, essentially as a new IRA. So generally, IRAs aren't going to go into the living trust. But for the vast majority of other property, especially real property, they need to go into the living trust. And I can assure you, if you own your home, a lot of people ask me, they go, well, should I do a last will and testament or a living trust? I own a home. Well, if you own a home, for all intents and purposes, and if you're in California, you should do a living trust. If you like the video, click like, subscribe, and then also you can call me or email me. I do give a free consultation to let you know what can be done, what the costs are, and so forth, and then we'll go from there. Okay, more in the coming videos.